Let's strip away the pleasantries and look at the world for what it truly is. Have you ever paused to ask yourself why the wealthiest people on this planet often operate in a gray area that feels entirely alien to your daily life? We are fed a steady diet of fairy tales, stories about meritocracy, hard work, and playing by the rules. But if you peer behind the curtain of actual wealth creation, you will find a jarring reality. Almost every individual who has ever reached the pinnacle of financial power did so by systematically dismantling the rules you were taught to worship. You cannot achieve true wealth by following the standard path, because that path was paved by people who wanted to ensure you never become their competition. The rules of society are not a blueprint for your success. They are a structural cage designed to keep you productive, predictable, and ultimately poor. From the moment you enter the school system, you are being prepared, not for greatness, but for utility. Think about what the education system rewards. It rewards the ability to sit still for 8 hours. It rewards the capacity to memorize and repeat information without questioning its source. It rewards those who can follow complex instructions to the letter. These are not the traits of a visionary or a wealth builder. These are the essential specifications for a high-functioning employee. Society teaches you a specific sequence: study hard, secure high marks, find a stable job, and wait until you are 65 to finally start living. This isn't a strategy for wealth. It's a strategy for creating a reliable cog in someone else's machine. Entrepreneurs and the ultra-wealthy don't win because they had the best grades. They win because they possess the audacity to see opportunities that the A students are too afraid to look for. They succeed because they take the risks that the obedient masses were conditioned to avoid at all costs. In this world, there are two distinct sets of operating instructions. There are the worker rules and the owner rules. If you spend your life mastering the worker rules, you will, with absolute certainty, remain a worker. The two realities, walls versus suggestions to the average person, the law and social norms, are walls. They are solid, immovable objects that define the boundaries of what is possible. But to the rich, these same rules are merely suggestions, or better yet, variables in a negotiation. The rules for the poor are centered around one word: obedience. You are told to get a job, work your fingers to the bone, do exactly what your superior says, and never question the hierarchy. You are told to pay your taxes without complaint and to fear any form of risk. If you follow these instructions perfectly, you might achieve a life of quiet comfort. You will survive, but you will never be free. This system is designed to produce a predictable workforce that generates massive profits for the people who actually own the game. Conversely, look at what the children of the elite are taught. They aren't taught to follow. They are taught to lead, to pivot, and to challenge every assumption put in front of them. They are taught that everything, from a contract to a legal boundary, is negotiable if you have the right leverage, the right connections, or the right amount of influence. While the poor see a no entry sign as a definitive stop, the rich see it as a prompt to find a different door or to simply buy the building. This mindset gap is the fundamental reason why the wealth gap continues to widen. If you believe the system is fixed, you stay within your lane. If you understand the system is flexible, you start rewriting the map. The 3 lies that anchor you to poverty. Let's dismantle the 3 most dangerous rules that keep the masses financially paralyzed. Rule 1, the myth of the stable job. We are told that a 9 to 5 is the only safe way to live. But look around. The world where a company takes care of you for 30 years and hands you a gold watch and a pension is dead. It's a ghost. Companies today will liquidate an entire department to save a cent on their stock price. There is no security in a paycheck. True security only exists in ownership. The poor are taught to fear the risk of starting a business, yet they ignore the massive risk of putting their entire livelihood in the hands of a single employer who doesn't know their name. The rich don't avoid risk, they manage it. They know that the greatest risk of all is doing nothing and staying dependent. Rule 2, the demonization of debt. You've been told that all debt is a trap. Live within your means, they say. While this is excellent advice for someone buying a television they can't afford, it is a lie when applied to wealth building. The wealthy use debt as a high-performance tool. They don't use it for consumption, they use it for acquisition. They take out millions in loans to buy cash-flowing assets like real estate or businesses. They let their tenants or their customers pay off the interest while they reap the appreciation and the tax benefits. By the time the debt is cleared, they own a massive asset for a fraction of its value. While you are saving pennies, they are leveraging millions. The rule "stay out of debt" ensures you never learn how to use the most powerful wealth multiplier in history. Rule 3, the hard work fallacy. This is perhaps the most insidious lie of all. We are told that hard work leads to success. If that were true, the hardest working people in our society, the laborers, the cleaners, the service workers, would be the richest. They aren't. Hard work is a prerequisite, but it is not the cause of wealth. Ownership is. Capitalism requires a massive amount of virtuous hard work from the bottom to fuel the profits at the top. The system needs you to believe that your 60-hour work week is a badge of honor, so you don't realize that you are simply sacrificing your health and family to build someone else's empire. Bending the code, how the elite operate the wealthy, don't just think differently, they act with a level of ruthlessness that society pretends doesn't exist. Take the concept of paying your fair share. For the average worker, the tax code is a mandatory deduction. For the rich, the tax code is a menu of options. They employ armies of specialists to navigate the thousands of pages of loopholes, using depreciation, offshore structures, and shell companies to bring their effective tax rate down to near zero. It's not that they are necessarily breaking the law. They are simply operating on a version of the law that you weren't invited to read. Then there is the breaking of ethical boundaries. We see it in pharmaceutical giants that inflate the cost of life-saving medicine by thousands of percentage points because the market allows it. We see it in tech companies that intentionally engineer addiction in children to maximize engagement metrics. We see it in real estate moguls who displace entire communities to increase rental yields. In the pursuit of extreme wealth, the rule of doing what is right is often replaced by the rule of doing what is profitable. To get rich, you must often be willing to make decisions that make the average person flinch. You have to prioritize the bottom line over the approval of the crowd. The power dynamics of rule following. Why is the world so obsessed with making sure you follow the rules? Because society doesn't run on fair play. It runs on power. Those who hold the power write the rules, and they don't write them to help you take their place. When you are taught to be a good citizen and follow the rules, you are essentially being told to stay in your lane. The legal system itself is weighted toward those with the resources to fight it. If a poor man steals a loaf of bread, he goes to a cell. If a corporate executive commits fraud that wipes out the life savings of thousands, he pays a fine using a fraction of the stolen money and returns to his mansion. The rules are not a moral compass, they are a mechanism of social control. The reason most people never break out of their financial circumstances is that they cannot afford the cost of disobedience. They don't have the legal defense funds or the social connections to survive a mistake. This creates a cycle where the poor stay obedient out of necessity and the rich stay innovative because they have a safety net. The 4 essential mindset shifts. If you want to escape the gravitational pull of mediocrity, you have to undergo a radical internal transformation. You have to stop being a rule follower and start being a strategist. 1. From obedience to strategy. Stop following rules just because they exist. Start asking, who does this rule serve? If a rule exists to make you more productive for your boss, but less wealthy for yourself, why are you honoring it? You must learn to follow rules only when they provide a strategic advantage and to circumvent them when they become a cage. Think of the tech titans who dropped out of prestigious universities. They didn't leave because they were bad students. They left because the rule of finishing a degree was getting in the way of a billion-dollar opportunity. 2. From risk aversion to risk management, the safe path is actually the most dangerous one because it leaves you with no control. You must stop trying to avoid risk and start learning how to price it. Every great fortune is built on a series of calculated gambles. The difference between a gambler and a wealth builder is that the builder understands the downside and has a plan to mitigate it. They don't jump without a parachute, but they aren't afraid of the height. 3. From scarcity to abundance, the worker rules are built on the idea that resources are limited and you must compete for a tiny slice of the pie. This zero-sum mentality makes you small-minded and fearful. The rich operate from a place of abundance. They realize that money is a renewable resource and that value can be created out of thin air through innovation and leverage. When you stop worrying about protecting your tiny bit of ground, you can finally start building a kingdom. 4. From permission to forgiveness. This is the hallmark of the modern disruptor. If you wait for the government, your family, or your peers to give you the green light to do something extraordinary, you will be waiting until you are in the grave. The world moves too fast for permission. The most successful companies in the world today, the ones that revolutionized transport, hospitality, and finance, all began by operating in illegal or unregulated spaces. They built the product, moved fast, and dealt with the regulators only after they were too big to be shut down. They didn't ask if it was okay. They made it the new reality, the cost of the unconventional path. I am not suggesting that you should go out and commit crimes. That is a short-term strategy that leads to a dead end. What I am saying is that you must be prepared to break the social and conventional rules that are holding you back. You must be okay with being the black sheep. You must be okay with your friends and family calling you reckless or greedy. You must be willing to endure the social isolation that comes with leaving the herd. The system protects itself through shame. It labels rule breakers as bad people to discourage others from following them. Most people are so desperate for social approval that they will choose poverty over criticism. They would rather be liked and broke than judged and wealthy. If you are not willing to be the villain in someone else's story, you will never be the hero in your own. The crowd stays average because they follow the rules of the average. If you want what the 1% has, you must be willing to do what the 99% are too afraid or too polite to do. The final choice, the cog or the architect. The path to wealth is uncomfortable. It is lonely, it is fraught with uncertainty, and it requires a level of audacity that most people simply do not possess. You have to be willing to fail publicly. You have to be willing to look like a fool while you are building your vision. But you have to realize that you are currently living in a system that was designed to exploit your desire for comfort. Every rule you were taught was a brick in a wall designed to keep you from realizing your own power. So, you have two choices. You can continue to play the game by their rules. You can be the good student, the hard worker, and the reliable employee. You can follow the path of least resistance and hope that, by some miracle, the system rewards you with the freedom it promised. But deep down, you know that's a lie. You know that the people at the top didn't get there by waiting their turn. Or you can decide that the rules no longer apply to you. You can start treating the system as a puzzle to be solved rather than a master to be served. You can start taking the risks, making the moves, and breaking the conventions that lead to true financial sovereignty. Becoming rich isn't just about money. It's about the psychological liberation from the rules of the poor. It's about realizing that the cage was never locked. You were just taught that it was a sin to open the door. The choice is yours. Stay in the lane they carved for you, or drive off the map and build your own road. There is no middle ground. You are either a rule follower or you are a rule maker. One gets the crumbs, the other gets the world. Which one are you?